Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that Zerg versus Terran. I'm back here with EJK, and we're going to talk a little bit about, your school and kind of what's going on in your life, because what's kind of your goals and, how StarCraft is going for you right now? How much time are you spending on it?
I try to spend as much time as possible, and I also work out to stay healthy. But I'm not really in a rush with school just because I think there's a lot of other things outside of school that can be experienced that wouldn't otherwise be if I was fully tied down to a big workload.
And how do your parents kind of feel about your situation, where I know that you are investing a fair amount of time into StarCraft and StarCraft content? Are they okay with it? Are they even aware of it?
I guess they've made their peace with it, so we coexist. It's not bad. They're not against it or anything, so I'm not really gonna push it anymore.
And how do your parents feel about kind of your the perspective that you're taking with your schooling and not necessarily being in a big rush to finish it?
Well, I mean, I'm taking full credits, so
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
they're not
that's.
really gonna push it. So
So what kind of prompted the change where you're taking on a higher load for education than you were previously?
mostly to keep my parents happy. Like they can't really be mad at what I'm doing if I am going in the direction that they ultimately want me to go in. So
Hmm.
it keeps the peace.
That's totally fair. Do you feel like you still have enough time to compete with a lot of the, top end, sort of North American players at least?
Yeah, but I ultimately would like to compete against other top level players throughout the world, and for that, I'm probably going to need a lot more time to commit to actually get my skill level up.
TVT, I know, has been a frustration for a lot of players, especially with kind of the finicky nature of it. Sometimes I think the best way that a lot of players like to describe it is it's Doom Drop Central. How do you feel about TVT? Where's your TVT at right now?
It's at a comfortable level. I don't really feel it's very coin flippy or anything like that. It's a very
Hmm.
even matchup. I actually enjoy playing it, but I don't actually find very many people who enjoy playing it who would like to practice it with me. So I would say my TVT is pretty under 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 the level that it should be compared to my other matchups because I have to rely on ladder for games, which is not always reliable.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's kind of a struggle to find a lot of, especially in North America, a lot of Terran players out there that are also doing well. So kind of does bring the question, is it a big problem in, say, WCS America and those kind of qualifiers and everything? Do you actually end up facing a lot of Terran players that you end up losing to?
Uh, well, I lost intense is he's knocked me out so many TVTs. Like that's really what motivated me to improve my TVT. I think I've lost like 3 times against him in different qualifiers already. But I do feel myself like the very last one. I felt myself a lot closer. Like they weren't the first couple ones were just stomps, but then the last one
Hmm.
he really had to fight for the win, and I think he barely pulled ahead with a 2-0, so it wasn't as clean as the other ones. So it's a big motivator. And then the WCS qualifier, I lost TVP, which against Estrella, which wasn't great either. I guess really my TVZ has always been my best matchup, and I like playing it the most. So that's I didn't. It got me really far, but in the end, I needed a more balanced skill level to make it to WCS.
Yeah, fair enough. And if you had to describe one big strength that you have and one big weakness that you have in the matchup, what would those two be?
Probably similar to my other matchups, or it's gonna be the same for TVT, TVZ, TVP. That like my strength is that I can find small advantages. My weakness is that I don't use them properly, and I'll try to parade push and win, and that might not have been the right decision, or I mess up, and then as a result, I'm kind of far behind, and I have to try to work myself back into the game.
So, I mean, it sounds like your weakness is very tied in with your strength, and both TVZ as well as TVT, and I'll actually maybe even imagine Terran versus Protoss as well. Is that you get those advantages and you kind of get overconfident about the advantages? Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's especially in TVP as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's gotten a bit better because I learned the hard way in TVP first, so I think it doesn't happen as much in TVP, but it still does happen a lot.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of things are you doing to sort of help yourself out with this kind of weakness? Like how do you go about trying to not be as overconfident when you get advantages? How do you go about practicing and make sure that you're not doing that? When I know there are a lot of situations where you get an advantage. I mean, we were actually just discussing this about a series that happened earlier today in WCS about you get an advantage and you need to press the advantage. So how do you get better at identifying when you need to do that versus just making sure you don't overcommit?
It just comes down to practice. If you don't practice looking for those advantages and exploiting them, you're never gonna be good at doing that kind of stuff. And as a result, you just sit back, you kind of play passive, and you wait for your opponent to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
So it is all part of the process of becoming a better player. I think having a hypothesis of, does this move work at this time after I've done X amount of damage? I do it anyways. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, no, back to the drawing board and then rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I don't try to practice ladder to go to have like an insane win record. I practice it to basically look for my losses and try to like lose as many games as possible while trying to win at the same time.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, we're going to take a look at your Terran versus Terran. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back.
It's game time! Terran versus Terran.
Welcome everyone to the Terran versus Terran. I'm back here with Zombie Grub, and we're going to be jumping in and introducing the players as we spawn. Over here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the opponent, the enemy. It is the red Terran player, Insane.
In the top right, as our blue Terran, it's EJK.
All right, TVT Zombie Grub. I'm gonna not even gonna sugarcoat this. TVT, just like I watch it sometimes and I'm like, oh, you know, I think this player's doing pretty well, and then they just get like dropped, and I'm just like, what happens? Yeah. So you're gonna have to guide me through this a little bit. I'm pretty clueless sometimes when it comes to TVT, especially on Secret Spring, because I think this actually is like maybe like the third or fourth TVT I've ever seen on this map.
Well, here's the, you know, like maybe one day you'll teach me PvP, because I don't get that matchup at all.
All right, sounds good.
I'll teach you TVT. Yeah, TVT I think is less confusing than PvP. It's actually pretty straightforward with how people lose games, but it does happen on, like, you know, the drop of a dime, basically, right? Where, you know, suddenly like everyone's good, everyone's dandy, even supply, even upgrades, and you're like, oh, there's a doom drop, oh, the game's over. Oh, well, that just happened. It happens in the early game, it happens in the late game. The mid game seems to be Terran's only safe spot, which is kind of odd to think about. That's usually when the action is rising, but in TVT, it's all over the place. The action could be at 5 minutes, it could be not until 30 minutes with battle cruisers.
Yeah, that's also like one of the other really weird things that like you think about in TVT is the whole like transition to air it's actually, I almost feel like it's as shrouded in mystery as like in PvP the transition to Tempest. Like it happens, but people don't fully understand how it happens usually. Even the players.
It's a very delicate balance, and unfortunately with the way that TVT has just played out in Heart of the Swarm, we haven't really gotten too many games like that. I mean, they still happen for sure. Like I said, like they can go from 5-minute games to 30-minute games or even longer. But it's like at this point in TVT, the last year and a half, basically, it's been, if I can get past 10-minute mark and not die, cool, I did something right. And then you got to start worrying about doom drops and the fact that, you know, the maps are played out like so and so. So on merry-go-round, you're always gonna be expecting a doom drop. Secret Spring is not necessarily a doom drop as it is just any type of drop or push out, because your thirds are awkward. They're either kind of far away or they're below a ledge that looks close that can be deceptive.
Yeah, it's just because of the way that ramp is actually pointed. But let's actually see if we make it to the 10-minute mark, because we did actually have a much earlier Gas Geyser coming down for EJK, whereas I believe Insane really went for a much later Gas Geyser, has been able to get out a couple more Marines, and is finally starting up a factory. Oh, the second Gas Geyser, though. That's actually, I guess it's looking like 1-1-1 for both these players. But what's sort of the difference between these two?
I'm actually trying to look and see what I missed.
I think Reaper opening for EJK, and I guess that's where the earlier Gas Geyser went. Yeah.
So he's going actually up to 2 Reapers, which is interesting. And a second Hellion. There's the starport that's coming down now. Expected to loot it sooner. And there's starport as well for Insane.
Yeah.
But this Reaper, okay, gets 1 SCV kill. That's awesome. Super Spring is very good for Reapers. So we see a lot of 2-racked opener as well versus all matchups nowadays on this map. But it's very interesting that he opened up 2 Reapers without 2-racksing and without like a proxy in TVT. Like you either open up with 1, I feel, if you're not doing either of those cheesy options, or you don't open up with any. And it's a bit of an odd little like duo team going on. 2 Reapers, 2 Hellions. Been trying to like look over here while I do something else.
Yeah, this is actually gonna get really scary right now, because the 2 Reapers are gonna be able to come in over here, and even if they don't do a whole lot of damage, the 2 Hellions are really gonna be able to do a lot of damage, because the barracks is building that reactor. I want to point this out, how perplexing it kind of was and how we weren't really sure what was going on, and I feel like Insane's kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah. It's so few units. This is why TVT can be very confusing, but I mean, usually these are accompanied by a medevac. Not seeing that is a little odd, but the Hellions could have been stopped with a wall off. You know, me and Rifkin on base trade, we're always talking about Terrans who never wall off, and we're like, oh, is it really worth not walling off if there's a potential Hellion push? Maybe not. So those Hellions were really what was so scary, and now Insane is down by 8 workers.
Yeah, it was very interesting over there, and I like how EJK actually targeted specifically down all those workers, to the point actually where he didn't kill any Marines, which was very interesting. Normally, if you think like, oh, I have Hellions engaging against like Marines, I'll just go for the shots on there, but did a good job kind of like kiting them around and kind of gave the Reapers a bit more room. Speaking of the Reapers, actually coming back in now.
Oh god, they have delayed this command center so long, while EJK's is now done.
Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. I think Insane, it may have been confusing opening, but I think he knows where he stands at the end of it.
Yeah. I feel like his only hope in a game like this would have been like a double tank drop or something, but he wasn't set up to do that. He was trying to go into cloaked Banshees, which would have just been easily countered by EJK.
Yeah, and I'm actually now seeing on the map right now, there was actually Zane was moving one of his Ravens across the map, maybe looking to do some like auto turret harassment, but a Viking for EJK actually caught it out in the middle. I think that was like what actually was the final blow, and like the killing thing for him to say like, I am losing the Raven, there's no way.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, well that is going to be the Terran versus Terran. Guys, we're going to see EJK's thoughts on this game as we move into the analysis segment. Don't go anywhere, we will be right back. Welcome back, guys, to the TVT analysis section. Back here with Evan, and we're going to be going into the analysis of this replay that you actually submitted and we just saw. So, Evan, take it away, man. What was going on in this game? Because this is a pretty cool build, I'm not going to lie.
Well, this build is designed to be kind of a multi-pronged pressure with 2 Reapers and 2 Hellions, but I scouted that he was going for Banshees, and so that's why I attacked now, and the Terran player played a little bit too greedily by not making he didn't make a single Hellion, and so this build kind of, if he made a Hellion, this would have been a lot easier to clean up. Hellions are a very strong counter to Reapers, but as a result, he just has 5 Marines that are just skirting around and not really able to do anything because they can't cover. These units are just a lot more mobile than the single Marines, but if he had a Hellion, he would have been able to zone out either my Hellions or the Reapers a little bit faster.
Yeah, is this a build that you like saw somewhere, or is this a build that you've actually been developing yourself?
I've been playing around with it, just trying to find some alternative Reaper pressure openers. There's not really many Reaper timings that work. This is a more delayed Reaper timing. It works a lot better when I think it works really well against Marine Hellion drops, but against other openers, I'm still figuring out what the best response is. Like if I want to still do it, if I want to scrap it, and if I want to do something else, that remains to be seen.
All right, cool. Well, do you have any other kind of final thoughts about the game?
I guess he still would have been in it, but his Raven was rallied straight into my Viking. I was
That was a little bit unfortunate. I remember that.
Yeah, that's where you just like give up, I guess.
Yeah. At that point, we've taken that much damage, and your like command center has been like the SCV building has been killed like 8 times. At a certain point, you lose motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. We're gonna be jumping back into the interview segments, guys. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.